Business objectives. Okay, this is always one of my favourite lessons. It's always one of the last lessons I do in the year. And it is really important that you understand it. So all the way through Theory of the Firm, what we've been talking about is what are the key goals for business, i.e. that profit maximisation, MC equals MR. But is that actually the case? Is that actually true? Well, what you'll have heard me talk about in lessons is the fact that for my business studies students, they know that actually there's loads more business objectives than just profits. And so when we analyse a business behaviour, what we should often do is question not just profit maximisation, but how it affects other business objectives. So this can be a question in itself as an essay as itself, or for my A starers, they will use this idea of business objectives to evaluate the points that they've made in the judgment of their essay. So as in right at the end of their essay, they talk about, well, it might be that you produced a profit maximisation point, but in the judgment, they'll talk about, actually, is that realistic? Okay, so the main three maximisation points can be seen in our normal monopoly diagram. So we've got profit maximisation where MC equals MR as per normal. Notice here price is quite high, quantity quite low. Now there's two other different types of objectives. Revenue maximisation and sales maximisation. Now we have actually done revenue maximisation before when we actually looked at the marginal revenue curve. Revenue maximisation occurs where MR hits 0, and that's here. So at this point here, we see output is higher and price is lower. Sales maximisation occurs where the firm is producing the maximum amount of sales it's able to. So in effect, it hits its break even. And we can see that that hits here at PS, QS, where AC equals AR. Now, why on earth would a firm want to produce past profit maximisation? Well, they might want to revenue maximise if they're trying to increase their brand loyalty or to reduce down costs on their long run average cost curve, improve the economies of scale, because obviously costs are lower here. It might be they want to sales maximise because they want to enforce predatory pricing, get rid of others out of the market, and then in the future go back to profit maximisation. Now, as we can see here, profit, revenue and sales maximisation is alphabetical, P to S, and this is the way I always tell my students to remember it. So as we go, as output increases at each point, prices start to fall. So profit maximisation has the highest price, sales maximisation has the lowest, with revenue in the middle. Okay. Well, there are actually two other objectives. Another one is satisficing, and really actually an A-level student understands this more than anybody. Because as an A-level student now, you are satisficing, trying to spend as much time as you can on your schoolwork, and at the same time maybe on a job or maybe with your friends, and you can't do any to the fullest of your ability. So what you try and do is you try and satisfy, you do enough, just enough to enable you to be doing okay at that objective, but not harm the other ones at the same time. So you might do some hours in your job, but not the most hours that you could do. So you could do some hours in your schoolwork, but not the most that you could do in the schoolwork because you need to see your friends as well. So you're satisfied. So here for firm, often there is satisficing because the manager of the firm has been put pressure on them by the shareholders to maybe make the maximum amount of profit, but workers at the same time, and maybe the manager wants a nicer standard of living and a nicer environment to work in. So that might actually conflict with what the owners want. So through satisficing, what you try and do is keep everybody happy. And the next one, and the final one really, is cost plus pricing. And this one's the most basic one. This is the Keynesian idea. And really through cost plus pricing is you get the cost of the production of the good and you add an amount on top, say 20%. So what would be normal in your industry? And you keep the price to that. Now the benefit of this is that prices don't change, because prices changing can be very costly. It's costly because you lose consumer confidence. It's costly because of menu costs for you to continuously change your prices. So Often firms will keep the price the same, but this may mean in the short run that they may make losses on occasion because of the fact that they're trying to keep to this long run price. And whilst it's not on the spec, I will often say to all my students, and I do want you to remember, that often the main objective a firm has is survival. Look at the financial crisis, look at what we're going through at the moment through coronavirus. Often firms might just want to survive for the next 6 months, next 8 months, or it might be a firm starting and it just wants to survive for the first year. It doesn't expect to make profits. It's not concerned with sales or revenue maximisation because it's not big enough to have any idea of predatory pricing or to try and improve its market share. It just wants to survive. Business objectives, really interesting part of the course, really important if you're really aiming for those A stars.